What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks.
I do have a media recommendation.
I love Lord of the Rings. Superheroes, movies, a little jack of all trades, I guess.
So what makes me a geek?
What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, the weekly pop culture podcast from Central Michigan Life, where we discuss all things geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you follow the CM Life Instagram and Twitter pages for updates on the podcast, and to look for us wherever you find your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and on our website at www.cm-life.com. My name is Brendan Valentine, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me and my fellow geeks this week, who will introduce themselves in a second with our question of the week. This week's question is, which fictional universe would you most like to live in? I can start. Personally, this was a tough one because I'm a big superhero fan, but I'm I don't know if I want to live in the superhero universes because of all if I'm in a city, all the destruction, I don't want to get Thanos snapped. And I'm thinking in general, which one can I have the potential to be cool, but still kind of be out of the way and not in harm's way. And I actually came up with the Star Wars universe. Simply because I know during the Imperial rule and everything, there's a lot of war and stuff, but if you're in the Outer Rim, Mandalorian kind of confirmed it, you're just kind of left alone to your own devices, but the Force still exists, lightsabers still exist, all the cool tech stuff exists. So I'm okay, kind of get the best of both worlds if I can pick and choose where I'm going, or maybe pre-Imperial era if I go to Naboo or something like that.
Oh yeah, just don't go into politics.
No. Bad idea. No, old Sheevy Palpatine's going to beat me for the Senate seat, though.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, how about you two?
So hi everyone. I am Hope Gooderl. I also had a really hard time picking this one. As much as I would love to be claimed as a daughter of Poseidon, because literally every quiz I ever do is always daughter of Poseidon, and then a few times I get daughter of Athena, but usually it's daughter of Poseidon. So as much as I would love to live in the Percy Jackson world, I don't think I'd want to deal with all the monsters that are trying to kill me all the time. From being a demigod.
Wait, you want to live past 16?
It'd be nice. I mean, I'm already 24, so technically I'm above demigod lifespan. And then it was also just going through other fandoms that I'm in, and I finally honestly settled on Harry Potter, because I would absolutely, and then I got really nitpicky with it because I would absolutely love to study under Newt Scamander and be able to go in the suitcase and deal with all the magical creatures, but I'm also but I want to live in an era with Seamus, because watching him blow up everything without meaning to would just be really comical. Not necessarily during the second Wizarding War, I don't need to deal with Voldemort and all that. But if I can have one of the two, either Newt Scamander or Seamus Finnegan, I'll be good. So Harry Potter world is what I landed on.
Ooh, both of you have very good choices. I will say, if I did have to do a superhero or a fictional world to live in, it would totally be Sky High.
Yes.
Just because so far, I mean, the worst thing that could happen to you is probably you get turned into a baby and then you just get to relive your life again. Yeah. But I also had a hard time picking. Obviously, I wrote down Middle Earth because that'd be so cool. It's such a beautiful place. But it would also be very I'd have to nitpick. I'd be well, I'd love to live in Middle Earth as long as I'm not in the middle of a war or an orc. Or I was in Lake Town and then it gets burned down. And so then I also thought, indoor plumbing, I also thought it'd be really cool to live in the world of Pokemon. Because I mean, it's a pretty positive place. Pokemon are so cool, and you can just, I don't know. and really beautiful places too to travel. Like it would just be fantastic. And so far, they seem to have free healthcare. And yes, exactly. So yeah, pretty much Pokemon. And then if that also wasn't available, the world of Ready Player One, which is literally just our world in the future, but with a freaking sweet video game.
But like, would you want to deal with all of like the crowding and everything of the real world of Ready Player One? Like,
that's true. They do make Ohio look even worse.
For those of you who don't know, we are all like in Michigan from Michigan, so Ohio slander is pretty common.
I try not to, mainly because I have cousins that live in Ohio, but also like.
Doesn't that give you a right if your cousins live there?
Yeah, kind of. But like, also, I love my cousins, so.
That's fair.
Plus, you know, Columbus Zoo with Jack Hanna, who unfortunately is not going to be running the zoo anymore, but Jack Hanna and Columbus Zoo.
But then Cedar Point.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of roller coasters, though. The look of disapproval that Brendan just gave me was gold.
Sorry, I'm a huge roller coaster fan. Well, anyway, thank you both for your insights. I didn't even consider Pokemon, Isaac. That was a good one. Now, to get things started, we usually like to share some quick geek news. So, Isaac, do you want to start us off with some geek news?
Yes, I do. Well, to start, in case you weren't aware, a trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings dropped. That is the subtitle. And it's pretty freaking cool looking. And besides that, they have also released some, like as always with new things, merchandising. And so some Lego sets have been revealed, which I think give away more than some of the trailer does, actually. I was looking at, there's a Lego set that was released, and it's called Battle of the Ancient Village. And you see like Shang-Chi, and then he's got some friends, and then there's just a giant dragon. So I have that to look forward to. If that is a spoiler, unless sometimes they like to take two different things that happen in the movie, like from the past and the present. So be on the lookout for Shang-Chi and anything that has to do with that. Secondly, Russell Crowe, who has been confirmed to be in Thor: Love and Thunder, we have figured out what his role in the movie will be. He actually told people on Twitter. Well, he told people in an interview, and then that was on Twitter. So I guess spoiler alert, in case you don't want to know who Russell Crowe is, but he has been confirmed as playing the god Zeus.
I'm very excited for that.
It's going to be pretty cool. Which means we probably might even see some the Marvel character Hercules,
who's also like super interconnected with Thor.
Yeah,
so I'm very excited for that.
They're demigod buddies that like to break stuff. So that's pretty exciting. I was wondering why Russell Crowe has been growing out this really big beard, but it all makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick question. Like, do you think Marvel tried to get the trifecta of the Russell name? Like, I know Russell Crowe is his first name, but like you've got Wyatt Russell and his dad, Kurt Russell. Like, you know, they have the trifecta of Russells.
Well, if they had gotten Chris Pine, which they didn't, they would have had all the Chris's, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Hey, there's still hope. Have Chris Pine play like Nova or something like that in Phase 5.
That'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nova is still my most anticipated one that they haven't announced. I really want to see a Nova movie, especially after I want to see what Thanos did to Xandar.
Yeah.
And have that be his origin story. I think there's a lot of potential there in the MCU. Alrighty. Well, speaking of MCU, actually, very exciting news on the Disney Plus front. The Spider-Man movies will soon be available on Disney Plus. Sony and Marvel have struck a deal allowing those titles among other titles that Sony owns, such as Jumanji, I believe.
Oh, sick! Like the new ones.
Yeah, the new ones will soon be available on Disney Plus, as well as some other titles will soon be available on Hulu. So Sony and Disney are getting along right now, which is always good to see. That's a delicate balance, as we've seen in the past, but I'm very excited for that. Also, fans of the Knights of the Old Republic video game for, let's see, what era was that? Was that Xbox? That was original Xbox and PlayStation 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That the remake of that game is like officially been announced and is moving forward. Like there were rumors about it, but like it's official now. We are getting that, and I'm very excited. Then my last little bit of news is we got an official poster for Marvel's What If series, which if you are watching on video, it is my Zoom background today. And you can't see it from the background, but it is titled Defenders of the Multiverse, which we knew this was going to be a multiversal show, following like Uatu the Watcher, like going through different things. But like, I'm wondering if this What If series is more than just like these are some cool concepts. We're going to animate them and just throw this together. I wonder if this has larger MCU implications, potentially like post Loki, where we're discovering the multiverse more, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. If any of these characters might show up in live action in one of the films.
Yeah.
So for those of you who can't see, it looks like we have Peggy Carter as Captain America. We have Doctor Strange as if he was corrupted by the dark dimension. T'Challa if he'd been taken by the Ravagers rather than Peter Quill. There is Black Widow, but I don't see any distinguishing features. It could be Black Widow, like if she had stayed with Hydra or the KGB instead of joining with Shield. The Thor one, he just looks like slicker. He looks like if he maybe it's like Thor raised on Earth.
Or maybe if he did become king, and ruled for
that would be a good one.
I don't know.
And it looks like Gamora is also kind of looks like She-Hulk. So maybe if Gamora had taken up the mantle of Thanos, taken up that role.
Gamora was stronger.
Basically. She kind of looks like Hulk, so I'm wondering if there's a Gamora with enhancements and super soldier serum type stuff. Instead of Nebula, because Nebula got all the cybernetic enhancements, so maybe she gets bioorganic ones. In this What If storyline, where Nebula is the favorite, could be something like that. This is just the poster, some speculation from that, but we'll get onto that later. Hope, do you have some news for us?
All right. So quickly, this isn't fully news as much as just I wanted to bring this up to see y'all's reactions. Someone on Instagram is trying to petition Wyatt Russell to play a live action Callus from, I think, Star Wars
Rebels.
Yeah. So
the guy with the facial hair.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Just looking at the picture of the animated character and then right next to Wyatt Russell, I'm I could see that. And
the big question is, if Wyatt Russell's going to play Agent Callus, who's going to play Zeb? Because I guess that'd be more of a question for Isaac. But does it matter just because you need so much CGI to really get to capture Garazeb?
Well, CGI or very nice prosthetics.
I mean, similar way to they do Chewie in the more modern movies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can see that.
Yeah. So like I said, that wasn't really news as much as just I wanted to throw that out to the geek universe.
No, I definitely would love to see that because he looks like him, kind of.
And honestly, I know we all hate John Walker on Falcon and Winter Soldier, no doubt.
Okay, but, I hate him, but I'm so happy that he's included in the MCU. His role is necessary.
Yes, absolutely. But honestly, I watched another John Walker. Yeah, I watched another John Walker movie because that's a thing. Wyatt Russell movie, and he's a good actor. Or I like the fact that he's been able to create a character that is universally hated. That shows talent. But so continuing on into news. So for fans of How I Met Your Mother, as well as Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff is set to star in and produce a sequel series on Hulu called How I Met Your Father. So I'm not sure if any of the original cast is going to be coming back or if it's going to be a completely new cast. But I just saw that and I was like, yes, more of that, because that show is awesome. Like, it goes on with all other sitcoms of just being awesome. If you've been waiting for more MCU movies, Hawkeye has officially finished filming. They wrapped on filming yesterday. So we are very excited for that. I can't wait to see the trailer and more pictures. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings fans, I mentioned in a few episodes ago that Amazon was coming out with a Lord of the Rings TV show. Well, just for the first season, the cost to make this series is $465 million, which is like the largest television series budget ever. So I hope it works out in your favor and that they blow a bunch of money.
Yeah, it better be good with that kind of money.
I know, in comparison, if you really want to know budget stuff, the CW shows, they get $10 each in budget.
Yeah. How can you make a profit from spending $400 million on something?
It is Lord of the Rings. I mean, so you are going to get lots of people to watch it, but I share your concern. Also, that was a joke about the CW budget. They have more than $10, but also sometimes I'll be watching The Flash and I'm like, really? That's very clearly not Grant Gustin. That's one of my favorite inside jokes. I just like to joke about tiny CW superhero budget.
Speaking of The Flash, though, but in the movie universe, Michael Keaton has been confirmed to reprise his role as Batman in the Flash movie. He was hesitant at first because of COVID, and, Michael Keaton is old, so, obviously there's concerns. But he has been confirmed to join the film as Batman, so we get Michael Keaton Batman back.
Oh, and if he comes back to Spider-Man No Way Home, the Flash movie and No Way Home are coming out within a year of each other.
Yeah.
So you'd be in a DC and Marvel properties back to back. I mean, I guess J.K. Simmons kind of did that too. So.
So going into Spider-Man universe, Alfred Molina confirmed that he is playing Doc Ock in Spider-Man No Way Home, and that they are using de-aging technology on him. So, another old actor, because they're apparently picking up his storyline directly after Spider-Man 2 from 2004. So
directly.
I was gonna say directly.
So he's in the water. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's gonna work. But so the multiverse has been confirmed apparently in this news. But also the fact that they're hey, we're gonna bring in Alfred Molina, but we're gonna de-age him back to when he looked like in 2004.
I mean, hopefully it's they de-age him for a section, and then it's it goes back to him, immediately after Spider-Man 2, and then he gets to a new, I don't know how it's gonna work, but gets put into a different universe, and then he just lives there for another 20 years, and then he looks like how he does now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I'm excited that multiverse and old characters are coming back. So
I mean, I like the de-aging stuff. I think it's, although I found it kind of comedic, when they did it for Michael Douglas in Endgame.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was fun.
So we all know Jason Momoa, who plays Aquaman, and he was on Game of Thrones. He will be joined by another alum from Game of Thrones in the Aquaman 2 series, Pilu Asbeck. Mm-hmm. Pilu Asbeck. I don't know how to say his name, and I feel really bad for mispronouncing it. But he is joining Aquaman 2 alongside Jason Momoa. Now, if we could just get, maybe Emilia Clarke into...
Oh, that guy. You're on Greyjoy. Okay.
Get Amber Heard out of the movie. I'll be extra excited for that movie.
Well, I hope that Pilu Asbeck is going to be playing his girlfriend. That would
be very interesting. So let's see here. Next is Indiana Jones 5 has confirmed 2 new cast members alongside of Harrison Ford. So Mads Mikkelsen has been cast in an unknown role, along with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. They are both joining Indiana Jones 5. I'm kind of waiting for the announcement of Robert Pattinson because I really want that whole young Indiana Jones thing to come back. That was supposed to be with Shia LaBeouf and then got changed to Robert Pattinson and then got like postponed indefinitely. But hey, we're getting Indiana Jones, and it's going to be really interesting because Harrison Ford is old. Like, I love Harrison Ford.
He can still act, though. If you saw, what was the one movie with the dog?
Oh, yeah.
Oh
my gosh.
Oh,
why am I blanking?
It's not Into the Wild. It was...
Call
of the Wild.
Yeah, Call of the Wild. There it is.
Yep. No, yeah. He was good in that.
Yeah. I'm not saying
good in Star Wars,
bad, but like... I'm like Indiana Jones, and he's like, is this going to be Indy's last like hurrah type thing? Like, are they going to kill him off?
That's what I thought Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was, and then they pulled the aliens crap on us, and I was like, what?
But that's okay. I mean, Shia LaBeouf came in. Like, it was supposed to be he took over the franchise.
It's his son, Mutt. I don't know.
I don't remember, but
it's been a while since I've watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
But then it was that Robert Pattinson was cast as young, as Indiana Jones Jr. And so that's why I'm like, what's happening with the franchise? But anyways, fans of Bridgerton. So they're currently filming season 2. It has been renewed for seasons 3 and 4. For fans of other shows on Netflix, other shows have not yet been renewed, and we're not so patiently waiting.
Yeah, I was gonna say impatiently. I'm waiting for like 6 shows to get a renewal.
Yep. Speaking of Netflix, Netflix is planning on honoring Chadwick Boseman in an upcoming special called A Portrait of an Artist, where Viola Davis, Spike Lee, Danny Guerrera, and more will speak of the late actor in this special. And so get your tissues ready for when that comes out, because we all know we're going to be crying because Chadwick Boseman.
I still haven't processed that fully.
Nope. There is a rumor circulating around that a Wolverine anthology series is in early development at Disney Plus. I don't know if they're like talking Hugh Jackman coming back or if they're just gonna try and go more into the comics, but I would be super excited for that to come in. So here is some fun news of the day. Tom Hiddleston knew about Loki's death in Infinity War since 2016, before Thor Ragnarok started filming. And like, I don't know how to process that, because like, to know that your character is gonna die in like the next movie, 2 movies, like,
die. Yeah, Brendan's got some air quotes going.
So for Shazam: Fury of the Gods, we have a new cast member as well. Lucy Liu, who was Watson in the Sherlock Holmes series on TV, she has been cast as the villain Calypso, who I believe is the sister of Helen Mirren's character, Hera? I think. No. That's his... I got really confused because they came out with like something that said like that there was a sister to the other villain. So there is that. We have like Calypso coming in. Let's see here. For game fans, a first ever live action film of Gundam is heading to Netflix.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't know what the original, like what it was originally on, what the game was on, if it was Xbox or PlayStation or anything, but to hear that it's the first ever live action of something means that like it's popular, right? I would hope. Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who was Kong Skull Island director and producer, is set to direct and produce the movie for Gundam. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering names. Let's see here. So Paramount has officially announced sweeping changes to their slate, altering release dates for a handful of 2021 and 2022 films. So we've got Snake Eyes is coming out July 23rd, 2021. Jackass is coming out October 22nd, 2021. Top Gun Maverick is coming out November 19th, 2021. Mission Impossible 7 is coming out May 27th, 2022. Dungeons and Dragons is coming out March 3rd, 2023. And Mission Impossible 8 is coming out July 7th of 2023.
They're really like tripling down on the Mission Impossible franchise.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of gonna be interested because like I don't know. Like the last one was kind of good with Henry Cavill in it as like the sneaky villain, but like I also feel like they're running out of stuff to do with Tom Cruise.
Oh no. They're just gonna combine it with the Fast and Furious world and it's gonna
No. We do not destroy my Fast and Furious world of Mission Impossible. Don't you dare do that.
I feel like both of them are running out of ideas. Bringing Han back for Furious 9?
Well, I mean,
Fast and Furious was only supposed to be is only like 10 movies. Like there were only like 10 movies like contracted.
Originally, I think the idea was just like they did the first one and then they're like, yeah, we can do a second one. They're like, no, we'll make this a 5-movie thing. And then Fast 5 hit and they got like renewed for 4 movies. And it was like, oh, okay.
So I don't know. Like I feel like Fast and Furious, it also depends on what way they go with the storyline for Fast 9. Especially with Charlize Theron's character and John Cena's character, you know, being like, oh, so Dom and has a new brother. Okay, that's interesting.
It's for family, okay?
Yeah,
that's what the movies are about.
But his brother's the villain, so like I'm confused. But I'm actually really excited to see that storyline. Fans of Star Trek, there is a new movie or project coming out that will be out June 9th, 2023. They have not said what it is. Like they're keeping it very mysterious. And I'm also like, if they bring back like the cast of the recent movies, like Anton Yakovich.
You know, yeah, maybe you're right, Yalkin.
Because you know he passed away, freak accident.
Yeah, Yalkin. Yeah.
So I don't know what they would do to do that, but I'm excited if they bring back Chris Pine and Bones. Like
Carl Urban.
Yeah, Carl Urban is Bones. Like, hey,
damn it, Jim. Yes.
Fans of Black Panther. The sequel is tentatively titled Black Panther 2. And there's been a lot of stuff online about a petition to recast Black Panther. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's a petition by fans. And like, I understand that you want the legacy of Black Panther to continue, but I also feel like if you did that right now, you might be taking away from other storylines that they're trying to work through without Chadwick Boseman. So like, I have mixed feelings on it. Like, I really don't want him to be recast right now. Maybe like in a few years.
Also, Kevin Feige has already come out and said that they're not doing that, at least for not for Black Panther 2. But I'm excited to see what's the actress's name for what's the actress Shuri's actress? Is that no
Letitia Wright?
Letitia Wright. Yep. No, I was thinking Lupita Nyong'o, who plays another character whose actual name whose character's name I'm forgetting now too. I need to rewatch Black Panther. It's been a while. But yeah, I'm excited because Letitia Wright's a really good actress. Like from everything else I've seen, and like her, like the character of Shuri, I think like in the main role would be very fun to watch.
Well, and it'd also be interesting too because they have to talk about how like a Black Panther would be created now like the flowers are destroyed after the first movie. So I feel like the second one kind of needs to be more sciencey anyways, of them trying to like figure out how to create a Black Panther or keep the Black Panther line going. So a few episodes ago, I announced that Marvel Comics was coming out with a LGBTQ Captain America. So DC Comics has revealed that a major Batman character is actually LGBTQ+. The character in question is none other than Batman's new partner in crime fighting, Ghostmaker, who has remained an absolute mystery in just about every way possible. So I'm not saying that they're doing it just to make an LGBTQ character. I think they're doing it to so they can have more representation and try and show real world characters, just like Marvel does. So I'm actually excited about that too, and I might actually look into more comics as well. I have just 2 more things, and then I'll be done for Geek News of today. So fans of the After movies, you are going to be getting 2 other movies after the next one is coming out. So you've got After We Collided. I can't remember what the third one is, but you've got After We Fell and After Ever Happy. That one is a tongue twister to try and say. And it's a prequel and a next generation sequel. So the prequel is so it's loosely based on the After series book Before, which the author penned from the perspective of Hardin, and his life before he met Tessa. So that's going to be really interesting. Hero Phoenix will not be portraying Hardin Scott in the prequel because it is early days Hardin, and Hero is my age. He's 24. And it's supposed to be a teen Hardin. And then the sequel will follow Tessa and Hardin's children, Emery and Auden, as well as their cousin Addie. So y'all have that to look forward to. And finally, just because I'm a Packers fan, I know I live in Michigan, I should be a Lions fan, but I'm not getting into that. I'm a Packers fan. You can say whatever the heck you want. My team is better than yours. Leave it at that. So Aaron Rodgers just finished up his 2 weeks of hosting Jeopardy. And there was an interview that he had, a Los Angeles Times interview that he was asked if he were to face off against other NFL players as a contestant on Jeopardy, who would he see as his toughest competition? And Aaron Rodgers came back and said that he would like to play against former Green Bay Packers teammate and current Cleveland Browns center JT Treader and Washington football team quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. Both are brilliant, he said. But he said that the other person that he would absolutely love to beat, and I will say this quote, is one guy I would love to beat, love to beat, is one of my former teammates now, Corey Linsley. Corey, who has just been our center for a number of years, just signed with the LA Chargers. Corey is really brilliant. There is no one I would want to beat more if we were both contestants than Corey Linsley. So, I kind of want them to come out with a Jeopardy episode of just Aaron Rodgers against whoever the heck he wants, because he was on Jeopardy a few years ago and he did really well. So I don't know, maybe we could do it again, another fundraising episode.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I'm always down to see Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy. I think he did a good job hosting.
Yeah. I would love to see him host more, but also he has a football career right now, so that's not happening.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, to get on to our main topic today, let's see. How should I word this? Coming up this summer, Marvel will be releasing something it is calling the What If project. Marvel What If. And basically, it's an animated series in which they explore some of the what could have been storylines in the Marvel Universe. Like, if one thing had changed, how would that have changed the MCU specifically? We thought that was a really cool concept and a really cool idea here at Raving Geeks. So we decided, can we apply this to other franchises or other fandoms that we think could really like benefit from a What If series, to get like fans and other creative minds behind it to really like push this. So we all came up with like one main like fandom, I guess, that we want to explore. We're going to talk about like some what episodes might look like for that, or anything like that. So the general criteria that like at least that I was using was for ones that I would pick is like the fandom has to be conducive to this like animated format, one that's like not necessarily like dark, but not like like we can make it like this light cute thing. It should match that like same tone. And it should be able to like in theory run for like multiple seasons, not just like a few things. Like if you have there's a couple of like fandoms that like you have like one or two like books and like a movie, and there's stuff like projects coming out in the future, but you don't have enough to like really base it on right now. Like that's kind of the criteria we went with. So before we really get started, I know when we originally thought of this idea, the first thing that popped into my head was Star Wars. Like literally, like every decision made in the Star Wars universe could be turned into a What If episode. If that interests you, near in the future, I believe Isaac and I will be doing a bonus episode of Raving Geeks that will be going up, where we specifically talk about what if episodes of Star Wars, where we give ourselves a little more time than cramming it into one of our regular episodes. So let us know if you would watch that and if you're looking forward to it. So, alrighty, now we're gonna get started here. Isaac, would you like to start with your like main fandom?
Yes. All right. For those who know me by now, would probably already guess that I'm going to pick Lord of the Rings. Mostly because, and by Lord of the Rings, I actually mean the extended of like all of Tolkien's work that has to do with the same world. Because I mean, there are a lot of moments that if you go back through, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and The Silmarillion, where you're like, what if they didn't do this? Or what if instead of that, they did this? Kinslaying. Okay. Yeah. So do you want me to just start by?
Yeah. If you could pick an episode, like what's like the big episode, like the season finale episode that you think would be if they did a Lord of the Rings or Middle Earth, what if?
Okay. I went through and I typed down 16 actually possible what ifs, but half of them are just like, what if so and so had the ring? What if so and so had the ring? And so I will actually go and I'm going to actually use a quote that's from the book, because there's a moment when Sam has the one ring and Frodo has been poisoned by Shelob and he thinks he's dead. So Sam takes the one ring because he's like, I'm going to finish this. But it said that the ring sent like him visions, basically, that flashed through his head. And it said that wild fantasies arose in his mind. And he saw Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, and armies flocking to his call as he marched to the overthrow of Barad-dûr. And then all the clouds rolled away, and the white sun shone, and at his command, the Vale of Gorgoroth, which is like where Barad-dûr is in Mordor, became a garden of flowers and trees and brought forth fruit. He had only to put on the ring and claim it for his own, and all this could be. And obviously that's just the ring tempting him to put it on. But I think it'd be so cool to see like a what if that actually happened. And we see like Sam with like a flaming sword. And he's just like uniting everyone. I don't know. I think that'd be really cool.
I think so too. That I hadn't considered that because like I remember like what you're talking about, that situation. I don't remember the exact wording, but no, I think that'd be cool. My first thought when I thought of this is too like what if instead of Frodo as like the main antagonist, is like what if it was Samwise instead? Like they just shifted a little bit. He was I guess like they don't really use the language of like the chosen one, but like Frodo's the chosen one. What if it was Sam? Was my first thought.
Would have been done a lot faster. No, I'm just kidding.
Heck yeah.
Maybe if Isildur. Do you want me to continue or do you want to go?
Go for it.
I don't know if we wanted to do like one, then one, then one.
Oh no, we'll just do all Lord of the Rings to start.
All right, cool. The next like really cool one I think would be a sweet episode was all right. So the Balrog awakes in Moria, and then he goes and then he fights Gandalf and then dies. What if he had killed the Fellowship and he had the One Ring? Because the Balrog is the same kind of creature that Sauron is. They're both Maiar, and I was thinking, what if like there's one Dark Lord over here, but then another Dark Lord that's just as powerful as over here, and then he had his army of like orcs and goblins, and then there was just a giant orc fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think Balrogs are sick. Like I said, a lot of mine just have to do with the One Ring.
Well, that makes sense.
I will say there's a really funny video, which I actually got the idea for one of mine from. It's by the series called Toon Sandwich, that you might know them by. They have a giant series where they have like giant hero battle or giant villain battle. But they have a video called Sean Bean Doesn't Die, and it's like, what if Sean Bean didn't die in all these movies? And there's the what if Boromir didn't die? And he's just like going with them throughout all of Middle Earth, and he's like, I don't know, he's just like being Sean Bean, and he's like, it's just a giant elephant when they're like fighting the Mumakil, and he's like, what are you scared of spiders or something, Samwise? And then he goes and like stabs Shelob. Like it's just him being Sean Bean. That'd be pretty sick. An episode, what if Gandalf?
Hold on. Before you do, I realized I have like no knowledge in Lord of the Rings. But if Sean Bean didn't die in Lord of the Rings, how could he play Zeus in Percy Jackson? So that's all my thing. I don't know.
I don't know if you know this, but actors aren't the characters they play. So he, in theory, could be both.
Wait a minute. Are you inferring that there's some sort of live action movie of the Percy Jackson series?
It's good separate from the books. If you don't know the books, it's an all right series.
You think the second... never mind. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lightning Thief is a good movie if you haven't read the books. Sea of Monsters is not.
Yeah.
Jake Abel saying, why are you on my roof? Is pretty good in Sea of Monsters, though. Like, come on.
All right. I and then not associated with the ring, I have what if Gandalf had a child with like Galadriel or something, and then they'd have be one of the most powerful beings in the world because they'd be half Maiar and half elf. I know Galadriel's married to Lord Celeborn.
I was gonna ask, how old is Gandalf gonna be when he has said child?
Gandalf. Okay, I don't want to get too far into that. So Gandalf is an immortal being called a Maiar. They're like a spirit. But then when he came to Middle Earth in the Third Age, he took the form of an old man.
Okay.
Because he didn't want to be he wanted to be underestimated. He wanted to be an old man that people would look down on. They wouldn't think that he's some tall, powerful person. He's actually technically, that body is younger than Galadriel. I guess most bodies are younger than Galadriel. She's an elf.
But that's how that's that transition from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. Like it's not the body that really does the changing, and that the body doesn't really matter, if that makes sense. But also, if you don't, hope you aren't the biggest Lord of the Rings person, so that's not the.
Gandalf is a strong, powerful man with lots of stamina. Oh man, so obviously, I think it'd be a cool episode if we just had what if Sauron did win. And we just see the gradual...
I feel like that would be the series finale.
Yeah.
Like, but I would imagine it's like, the first like 5-10 minutes is like, the big battle from Return of the King, but Sauron winning. But then the rest of the episode would be like the survivors from that battle, like as like a resistance.
Yeah, like
that would be a cool episode.
Like most people are dead, but then it's like.
But then you have like like you'd probably still have. I don't know if Sauron would let Gandalf live.
Probably
but
not.
Like you'd probably have like a Gandalf level, like in terms of power. You'd have one of them being like the ringleader, and then you have a couple like
you got Radagast from The Hobbit.
Yeah, And you just have like people that like were traditionally considered side characters as like the new leaders of all these factions. Like someone that, like a fan favorite of the elves and the dwarves and everything. Like, and they're now in these leadership roles. And since it's like an animated thing, you don't need the actors, so like you can kind of bring in anyone.
Yeah, I mean, technically need actors because you
just need voice actors.
Yeah,
but
you don't need the original actor. Like you don't need this big budget thing to do.
I mean, Billy West plays like 8. Actually, he plays like 1 million characters in Futurama, but he plays like 5 of the main characters. And so that'd be pretty cool though if Sauron won. Especially if like one by one the episode started out with like all the heroes dying, like the ones that we know, like failing and doing stuff. Because especially if Sauron did win, like the orcs outnumbered the humans, like, and he already had the Easterlings and the Haradrim, which are the people on the giant elephants, like at his side. So he would probably just take over the entire continent. And it'd be great because it would probably end with like physically the gods or the Valar coming over and having to basically like extinction level sink that continent or something.
That's right. Okay, see, I always forget about that. Like, I don't think big scale for Lord of the Rings, but you're right. Like, there's the whole storyline of like like Middle Earth and all this stuff of like, I forget. Are they called realms in Lord of the Rings? Sorry,
not really.
It's been a while.
I mean,
but, like,
just places,
there's Middle Earth, and then there's like these like weird like areas outside of Middle Earth where like
Valinor, Valerian already got destroyed. Cool. But and so like it would literally end with like cosmic battle.
I can see that. That'd be really dope.
Yeah, and then maybe even Eru Ilúvatar, who's like the god above gods, would just be like, "All right, we're gonna have to scratch this and go back to step one." Exactly.
When you said Lord of the Rings, though, I think the one that kind of popped into my head was thinking back to like The Hobbit. What if like they failed? Like going like they're trying. It's been a while. The last time I like interacted with The Hobbit was the movies, which are a little bit different. But then like let's say like they get to Smaug's lair and they go in that, like let's say Bilbo fails, like Bilbo gets caught by Smaug. Let's work with that. Bilbo gets caught by Smaug having the ring. The ring is trapped in the mountain. They do not reconquer the mountain. And Smaug is there. And then we lead into Lord of the Rings. Like you don't have the ring. How does that change things? Does Smaug become like a chosen one, like the dragon itself? Like I think that'd be really funny to see. Like what if Smaug got the ring, understood what it meant, and like interacted with Sauron? Because like Smaug's dead in Lord of the Rings. There's no like. Are there dragons? Heck no, that's it.
Okay, he's the last of the great drakes from the north. Which are like the ones that can breathe fire and stuff too, the fire-breathing drakes. So it's like hypothetically there are more giant lizard-like dragons that live in the far north, but like many dragons didn't even have wings. They were kind of just things that like giant Komodo dragons essentially. So there might be some more of that, but he was the last of the great dragons. But no, so if he had the ring, like Sauron would probably try and kill him, but that'd be pretty
That would
sick.
be a high order with Smaug with the ring. I don't think Sauron could do it.
Yeah. And like if you're a human, you're like, who do you root for?
Exactly. But then also I feel like Sauron like wants domination. I feel like Smaug just kind of want to be left alone.
Yeah.
So I feel like I root for exactly. Like until like you mess with him and then you'll like, so I feel like it just like with Sauron it's decimation. With Smaug you end up with a dictatorship, and I feel like that's where you root for that's who you root for as a human. It's like I'd rather be subjugated than dead.
He's the hero we deserve.
Exactly.
But not the hero we wanted.
I mean, you can always bring in Benedict Cumberbatch as, Sherlock, because, Martin Freeman. Sorry, that's all.
I'm sorry. I always forget, like, all of the MCU people that are in other movies, especially Lord of the Rings. Martin Freeman in Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Smaug. All the same person.
Gollum is also Ulysses Claw.
Yes. Another Black Panther.
Oh man,
I always forget about that one.
And then I'll do one more. So there's a moment where Saruman is like, "Join me, Gandalf," and then Gandalf's like, "I didn't know when Saruman the Wise became Saruman the Fool," and then like they have this old man fight. But it was like, what if Gandalf joined Saruman? Like Saruman has this huge dialogue in the books, which is like, the age of the elf is over and it's the age of men, but it's like men can't rule themselves, so we can rule them. And they're two immortal beings, so it'd literally be a giant orderly kingdom ruled by two old immortal men. And that'd be pretty interesting. Like Saruman was a bad guy, but he technically had his reasons. Like he wanted to rule over men and eventually stop Sauron, but he goes about it in a very bad way by making an army of orcs to kill the men, to subjugate them. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool to see these two immortal rulers take over.
I think so too. I feel like there's a lot of potential in Lord of the Rings too, just with how much details in those books.
Yeah.
So cool. Thanks, Isaac.
I feel like I should add in unnecessary details in those books, but
Whoa.
That is subjective.
Okay, yeah. Listen, sometimes you don't need a poem on every other page, but
In this case, it's fun.
now we have those. I know I have the Lord of the Rings behind me right here. Look it's only a big old book.
I think
I just saw, like,
textbook smaller than that.
3 poems just by flipping through this. I love it. I love it though.
Alrighty. Hope, what about you?
So like Isaac, I am sure you can all guess which fandom I chose. Harry Potter, of course. Mainly because like I feel like it's more well known than the other one that I chose. But so Harry Potter, I kind of went with the like main trope of the what if, of what. So like we all know that Neville was technically the chosen one, but he was chosen to lead like the whole battle versus like the individual battle, like Harry was. But my thing is, what if like Neville's parents were killed by Voldemort? You know, Neville, what became the chosen one, had the scar and everything, but he still lived with his grandma. So like he doesn't have the abuse that the Dursleys gave Harry.
We got some abuse, but not the same abuse.
But then the other part is because Harry and Neville would essentially trade places where Bellatrix comes and tortures Harry's parents. But Harry then grows up with the parental figures of Sirius Black and Remus Lupin.
Because Sirius is never framed for murder.
Yep.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What a cool world. Because I mean, we're not really missing out on anything because I mean,
can you imagine how like extra sassy though? Like especially once Harry got to school and like Sirius and Remus both learned that Snivelus Snape was Harry's potions professor, and they're like, listen, you had nothing on Lily. And then if like Harry still found the Half-Blood Prince's book and found it, and they were like, dude, that's Lily's handwriting. Like, you cannot claim this as yours. Like, come on. But also, like, I also see it as more like, because Lupin was definitely more like the voice of reason. Like, he was definitely more like Lily, and Sirius was definitely like
my man,
James. And so, like, I also see it as like the fight between like both of them knowing how chaotic they can be because, you know, they're the Marauders, but also like finding out, oh, Harry drove a car to school and he was chaotic.
The thing though is, would all that stuff even still happen? Like, my question is, like, if Neville's the chosen one and Harry's not the chosen one, do Ron and Harry still make that connection day one, or do Neville and Ron make that connection? Like, ooh. And like, I think that's something they'd explore, and like, I feel like this would definitely be the series finale question. Like, what if Harry's not the chosen one and it's Neville? And
then my other question is, would Harry still be sorted into Gryffindor, or would he be sorted into Slytherin?
Well, because I feel like if Sirius and Lupin are his parental figures, then he'd probably want to be in the same house they were, which was Gryffindor. Because I was thinking about that too, but then I was like, no, because he'd probably, and he probably wouldn't like Draco, because Draco doesn't he think Sirius is like a blood traitor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then my other thing is, would Sirius say that Slytherin isn't all that bad because he's trying to make up for the mistakes that he made with Regulus? Because Regulus was sorted into Slytherin and he lost touch with his brother. So therefore, would he tell Harry, hey, if you get sorted into Slytherin, like, you just be you and, you know, we'll continue to keep you grounded and, like, be a good, and you'll turn out fine. You know, like, the house doesn't truly matter. Like, but also makes me question if, like, the reason why Harry was going to go into Slytherin was because of, you know, the part of Voldemort that was in him. And then therefore, would that be what happens with Neville? And if Neville was sorted into Slytherin, would Snape still be as much of an ass and a bully as he was?
Speaking of Snape, I feel like Snape would play a very different role in this scenario, because like the whole reason he's like with Harry and Harry's able to like win in the end is because of like Snape's double agency. However, without, you know, the I guess motivation of getting revenge on Voldemort for killing Lily Potter, does he ever, like, is he ever a double agent? Is he always like still like a faithful Death Eater, or does he do he and Sirius team up to turn on Bellatrix for hurting Lily? That's
what I was about to say, because in a way, the torture and essentially her losing her mind and her identity would essentially be worse than her being dead, because she's still alive. Like, Lily is physically there, but who she is and who Snape is obsessed with is gone. So I feel like he'd probably still be a bully in all honesty, because like he didn't have the figure of, you know, the good person figure of, hey, if you're bullied, like, here's how you become better rather than go into the darkness. But I feel like they would find a way to team up against, like, that he might still be a double agent, but maybe not necessarily like as
influential and committed.
Yeah, like people would be like, are you a double agent though? I feel like you're a double agent. Like, you know, Lily's still alive, so like, why are you with us? You know.
Well, I just want to say back on that Slytherin Neville connection. I totally stand for that, because Neville is a pureblood. Yeah. And I think Snape would probably take him under his wing if he knows that, like, I mean, whether or not Snape does that, I mean, Neville is going to be then the child of prophecy that's going to eventually kill Voldemort. And it depends on how much depending on how much Snape is willing to betray Voldemort in this series would mean how much he's going to be a mentor to Neville, which would be pretty
Honestly,
cool.
I feel like this could be a whole season of a Harry Potter what if show. This is like, what if Neville was the chosen one? And you just go through like a bunch of different like scenarios. That could definitely be a whole season. Because
like, I could also see Neville being sorted into Slytherin and then teaming up with Draco and possibly Crabbe and Goyle. But then having to do, like, in the first book of finding the Sorcerer's Stone, the Philosopher's Stone, and, like, having to go through everything. And, like, what it is, like, you know, they're all freaking out. And suddenly, like, Neville's like, wait, God, like, Neville's the one who figures out that it's Devil's Snare, not Hermione.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh, I love this.
Apology and stuff. And then, like, and Draco actually turns out to be good. And, you know, we actually all fall in love with Draco because he's not a total ass or portrayed as a total ass. And, you know, maybe Draco could actually, like, stand up against Voldemort with his friends instead of being called. Which wands up for, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. Narcissa Malfoy just passed away. So, like, wands up for that. She'll be dearly missed. Tom Felton's post about that was super sweet. But, like, I could see a bunch of characters, like, as people in the fandom, like myself, like I'm a Draco person who, like, he's my child. Like, I see the good.
Draco's a bad guy. I don't think he ever really got redeemed.
Like, he didn't get redeemed. I don't think so. But I also think that he didn't have a choice. And
he didn't have Neville to be there with him.
Exactly.
I feel like he had a choice. Yeah, I feel like his family specifically had a choice.
Oh, but if like you had a family member named Bellatrix Lestrange who was crazy enough to torture someone and use the
Cruciatus curse.
Yeah, Cruciatus curse. Thank you. That like, because that's a curse you actually need to like want to use that curse.
You need the passion of torture.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, would you stay? Like, would his family stay to protect their son so that Auntie Bellatrix doesn't come through and torture their son, or would you go and try and hide? Like, I know she's in Azkaban at the beginning. Like, I get that. But, like, also, she breaks out of Azkaban at one point. So, like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that could happen in a What If series. And it would be very interesting.
I feel like another interesting one would be just, like, what if Harry got sorted into Slytherin in the first... Like, he's still the chosen one. And his group is, Draco, Crabbe Goyle, Pansy Parkinson.
I was going to Pansy... Blaze.
Yeah. Like, and that's his group. And then, like, how does that change his relationship with Voldemort? Does Voldemort, like, see, like, more kinship with him? Or does Voldemort still see him as an adversary?
Yeah.
Also, I guess I just had remembered it, because I was like, why actually was the reason he chose to kill Harry over Neville? And it's because Harry was a half-blood and not which similar to Voldemort. And so he chose to kill him. So,
and
if
also
he was
with Snape's connection to Lily, so, like, he knew more about Harry than he did Neville.
And he promised. He said, I won't hurt her. And then he hurt her.
Because she was in the way. So,
Yeah. Wait, have you seen that TikTok where it's like the guys pretend to be Voldemort coming in and he kills James and he's like, all right, now like it's Voldemort talking to Lily. He's like, all right, now you just get out of the way and you get to be with Severus and I just kill your kid and you stay alive and you get to be with Severus. She's like, nah.
I'd rather die.
I'd rather die than be with Severus. I said well, like smaller scale ones I've thought of too for the what if.
I do have one smaller scale one that's like kind of super small.
Super small.
It goes with Quidditch.
Quidditch.
So, what if Quidditch teams at Hogwarts had coaches, not just captains? So, like, how we know that, like, Oliver Wood and Marcus Flint were the captains, and, like, they essentially ran practices and, like, told their team what maneuvers and everything. What if they had a coach? Because I could totally see Oliver Wood graduating and then coming back and being like, listen, y'all, this is my team, and this is what we're going to do.
All right. I got two bludgers.
Like when Albus and James, Harry and Ginny's kids, like, he'd just be obsessed with them because he's like, Ginny and Harry got together and had children? These are going to be the best Quidditch players I've ever seen.
Have you seen the meme, like, from Tumblr where, like, it's like, can you imagine Oliver Wood's reaction to learning that Harry and Ginny married and like combined their bloodlines? And it's like, okay, so this is how many kids you have to have in order to make like the perfect Quidditch team. And like, they're just like, how did you get into my bedroom?
You're just like running plays.
When you said like coaches, for some reason, my brain went on a tangent of just thinking about like, what if it was like Muggle football coaches that got hired by Hogwarts? And so it's like a bunch of like American football coaches that are like, pick up the ball. Like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, he was open. He was right there. And it's like Mike Ditka or some other people.
Yeah.
See,
hey,
speaking of that, like incorporating Muggles, I want to see like Muggles with Muggle weapons fight wizards. Like, I want to see a Harry Potter what if, where during the second Wizarding War, like they bring in like Muggle allies, and they're all like, "All right, I got my pistol," and then someone just like shoots Voldemort in the shoulder. I think that'd be so funny. Like, or like someone's like with a bow and arrow or a sword, and like wizards like, well, I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, like, a wizard picks it up and shoots it and goes, so uncivilized, and throws it.
I was gonna say, I feel like wizards would know more what to do with the sword and bow and arrow more than they would the guns. But like I mean, cannons?
Harry Potter takes place in the 90s, so like they could have like fully automatic rifles, and just like I feel like the Death Eaters wouldn't stand a chance, honestly.
No, what are you gonna do? Block it?
a grenade where like, you know, Muggle tosses it to him and the Death Eater just picks it up and goes, what the?
And then boom. Yeah. No, that'd be interesting. A wizarding war, but like one side uses like Muggle artillery. That'd be kind of funny.
What if Harry Potter was rated R?
Yeah, what if Harry Potter was like a war film, not just like a magical world about like family and love and stuff like that.
That brings up a really good point, since like the wizards during World War II.
Yeah.
Like,
see, that's my theory about like the reason wizards are in hiding is like after like the not necessarily the Industrial Revolution, but like once Muggle tech started to like, I feel like Muggle tech surpassed magic, and that's how they like beat the wizards into submission.
Yeah.
And the wizards like were to protect themselves, probably did like a mass like forgetting spell.
You know, did you guys see Fantastic Beasts? Either of them?
I saw the first one.
I saw the first one.
Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but American wizards don't ever say the spells out loud. Like wizards and witches don't ever say it out loud. And that's because like the Salem witch trials and everything, like the witch trials were more prevalent in American history than they were in like in Europe.
I mean, they were pretty big in Europe. Let's not rule that out.
They were big, but like it wasn't like as much.
You talked about the Salem witch trials, not the, you know. What was the big one in France?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Do you know that in Iceland they burned more men as witches than women?
That surprised me.
There's your fun fact.
The more you know. And then the star with the rainbow comes across my screen.
But like, oh my gosh, so American wizards and everything would actually like, you don't necessarily know, so like they already have like more cloaking. Plus at the end like Jacob in Fantastic Beasts also brings up the Great War because he fought in the Great War, and he's trying to open his bakery and he's like, listen, I fought for this country, like I gave service, so like I should be able to get a loan. So like it does make me wonder what exactly wizards were doing in Europe during World War One.
Probably like good. Some of them were probably like good, less Muggles. Like given the Grindelwald and Voldemort ideology. What some of the like smaller scale ones I thought of too. What if Dumbledore never rescued Umbridge from the Centaurs? So no Umbridge in book 7. That's just one like thought experiment that I want.
Or she fell in love with the Centaurs.
Seeing as the only thing she loves is government and order. I don't even think a what if scenario would explain that one away.
What if she got kicked in the head by a horse? All right, sorry.
Okay, you got me there. The other one I was thinking of is like, what if Hagrid was allowed to finish his like magical training?
There are fan theories that like after the Second Wizarding War, that Harry took Hagrid through Diagon Alley, like Hagrid had done for Harry, and like bought him all this stuff and like helped him get through, and like Hermione tutored him and everything. And I was just like, what?
I've heard that as well. I've heard it's really cute, but like just originally, like let's say like Tom Riddle like, or maybe not necessarily gets caught, but doesn't successfully pin Chamber of Secrets on Hagrid, and Hagrid is able to, you know, continue his studies and actually becomes a fully fledged wizard. Where how does that change Harry's story? Because like, is Hagrid still gamekeeper? Does he move on?
Okay, so I have two things about that. So first off, Tom Riddle doesn't win, like gets caught in the lie, because Newt Scamander comes back and is like, listen, that is a fucking spider and that doesn't do what a basilisk does. So you have a basilisk problem.
You got snakes.
You got a giant snake going through all the pipes.
You got snakes in your plumbing.
2, shoot. I forgot. After being super dramatic. Because Hagrid is half human, half giant, or half wizard, half giant. The wizards don't fully accept him because he is so much bigger, and the giants don't accept him because he's so much smaller. So like he grew up more wizard than giant. So like giants have their own society and everything, and like we learn when Hagrid is taking like gifts to the giants to get them on Dumbledore's side, like on the right side for the Second Wizarding War. that like there's this hierarchy. So like I feel like Hagrid would still need someplace to stay, like Professor Trelawney. How like she needs someplace to stay and live. So like it gets.
I was just wondering if like Hagrid, like if he would move on and find a different place than Hogwarts, because like his devotion to Dumbledore comes from Dumbledore helping him out in that scenario. So, but then he's not sent to get Harry. He's not the one that takes Harry to the Dursleys. Like, is there someone else that fills that role, or is there just no Hagrid?
Well, if we keep up with, well, it would be Neville this time, because if we're keeping up with Neville is the chosen one.
But that's just a whole separate thing.
That's true.
Like we can, if we're for the what if stuff, we can change one thing, but not, and just see where that ripple effects from. So,
what if Hagrid just beat the crap out of Tom Riddle when he accused him?
It's McGonagall who goes and gets Harry from the Dursleys because she's fed up with how they're treating him.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, you're my child now. You're going to live with me. And she proceeds to like spell the Dursleys because...
Yeah, I would read that. I love McGonagall. She's probably my top 5 favorite characters. She's in there.
I also love McGonagall. All right.
Well, I have one smaller thing as well. Just really quick. Muggles bringing in pens and like pencils with erasers and everything, so they don't have to use quills anymore. How would that change?
Like Muggles or Muggleborn?
Muggleborn. Yeah.
Like
interesting. No, I vibe with that.
Wait, one last thing. What if at the end of the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry used the Elder Wand to repair everything instead of having Filch use a broom to sweep up dust after a battle while Harry's out destroying the Elder Wand?
You sound like my dad.
He could have
every time we watch it, he's just like, why does he just fix everything? And I'm like, dark magic, and that's my answer.
No.
But the other thing is, like, with the stone, why did Harry just drop it? Because he could have used it so that people could say goodbye.
Ooh, yeah, like to...
Keep in mind, he was 17.
I know.
Like, he was not thinking this through.
He was just thinking about the fact that he was going to die. Also, I will say one thing I'm kind of mad about. The fact that the stone in the movies is a gem instead of just a random pebble from a river.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, come on. Why did we have to make it fancy? So.
All right, Brendan, take it away.
All right. I thought you had one more thing, Isaac.
No, I think I said it.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. So here, I thought a lot about mine. There were a couple things that I thought of, and I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool," but it doesn't quite fit. And then I was talking with my girlfriend, and she's like, "Well, why can't you just do like your own life, like a what if series for like you personally?" And I'm like, "Oh, that'd be really cool," but like I don't have a fandom, not for me. But I'm like, what does have a fandom? Like human history.
Ooh.
So like, what if the History Channel got a handle on like an animation studio and like voice actors and everything like that, which I'm sure they've done like the documentary style of like, oh, this is what it would look like if this didn't happen and this didn't happen. But like, I would watch that as like if the History Channel went through and said like, they had like one season like American history, what if, one season Chinese history, what if, and like did that. I'm sure something like that exists, but I also think that'd be really, really cool. And like you can turn it into like a historical fiction, like historical, like science, even like a science fiction type thing. I think that'd be really interesting.
So I actually had my senior year of high school. I was taking American history, and we were watching a documentary about World War I and like how Hitler was in World War I, and there was actually like an Allied soldier who had a chance to kill him. So we actually had like a what if scenario, and like would World War II still have happened?
Yes.
So, yeah. So my thing with that is if Hitler had been killed by the Allied soldier during World War I, yes, we would still have World War II, but I don't think we would have necessarily had the Holocaust in the same way.
I think it would depend on who was the national figure. If they still led on like German area nationalism, which was not like a solely Hitler-esque idea. But like I definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah.
But like I don't think I think we still would have had some sort of like mass genocide, but I don't think it would have necessarily been to the scale of the Holocaust. But we definitely still would have had World War II, especially after the World War I. Like basically they were all like, oh, it's all Germany's fault. Actually, the Ottoman Empire was part of that, which turned into like Austria and all that. So like
Turkey.
Turkey.
Hungary.
Like, so it wasn't just Germany's fault, but like, so World War II still would have happened, but I think there would have been differences in it, which I think would be kind of interesting to see, like, what would have happened, like who would have taken over Germany, who would have risen up to lead and essentially start World War II.
My biggest one would have been like, what if like Columbus's charter was denied?
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to bring that up. Continue.
That would be my season finale. It'd be like, all right, how does like North America look different? Because like eventually with like, technological developments and things like that, it'd be slower, but like it'd get easier to cross the oceans and you still see people. But give another 100 or so years, technological advances on both sides. Like, does America, like North and South America, do they still get colonized? Is it more of like a fight? Is it peaceful at some point? Like, if you give them time, like, that's one that I'm interested in.
My other question is, would they use the Americas like they used Australia? Because like
as like a penal colony.
Well, yeah, Europe used Australia as like, here, send our criminals here. So the whites in Australia are basically, all descended from some sort of criminal. But
sorry, Australians. In a nutshell, oversimplification, but yeah, maybe.
But like, would they have used the Americas for that, or would America
not with that like type of territory?
Native American.
It also depends because they didn't discover it. Like, I think it'd be cool to see what if the Western Hemisphere was never colonized.
Not never, but like.
Well, I'm saying I think it'd be cool if the what if I
mean, like, if the perspective was like, all right, today, like 2021 is when it's discovered. What does it look like when we get here? Or does the Western Hemisphere develop the technology to get over to the Eastern Hemisphere, and do they make contact with the Eastern Hemisphere first?
And I imagine it'd be similar to like how different, like Asian and like Chinese culture was compared to England, like Europe when they first met, where like they would have developed their whole system, like buildings would be different. I think it'd be cool to like to see like a future of the Americas if like no one came up. So it'd be almost like a Wakanda, but where they were like shielded from the outside, and so it was like
well,
you'd see like skyscrapers and Chichen Itzas like all over the place and stuff like that. I don't know.
The other thing is it would be all of the indigenous tribes. So all the different tribes that once were across all of the Americas. Like, how would they have separated? Would they have kept the same separation of America that they had for like where their tribe land ended?
And also, would there be any like unification? Because there's so many tribes. Like, given as time develops, does one like take over? Does some like merge cultures and things like that? There's a lot of like variables in that one.
Well, in my Latin America history of Latin America class, it's pretty interesting because when you look at like the Aztecs and like the Inca, like they were constantly at war with the other Latin American tribes, to the point that what they did was they would take over the other tribes and then be like, okay, just like they basically kind of like almost like the feudal Europe, where they're like, okay, we took you over and just like pay us in taxes, but you're like part of our thing now. And they were like a huge powerhouse, like more of a centralized government than like in the North America. And so it'd be interesting to see like if they expanded that,
Well, really quick, I would say, going back, because like I know that there are still indigenous tribes in South America. Like they have been like, they don't necessarily do everything the same exact way as their elders and everything. Like, they wear clothes like us, but they still have like their traditions. But if you look at a lot of their like land, their tribal land, especially as it's been given back by some countries to the tribes, that like the land is so well preserved. And so I think if like the Americas hadn't been discovered for a long time, I think a lot of the effects of the Industrial Revolution and just like technology upgrades too would be massively reduced. Like, we wouldn't have as much pollution and stuff because the land is protected and taken care of better than what we do now.
Gosh, you could do it.
They could like Yeah, this was like a big. I was like,
Yeah.
this works, but that's also like a lot. I like
It's a
two other
lot.
major ones that like I really wanted to like think about. The other one is if the Vikings had stayed like in the Americas, and, like they had settled colonies instead of just returning back to
But the
Scandinavia.
Vikings were so well, like they had their moments of being uncivilized people, but like we don't give enough credit to the Vikings for how civilized they actually were. Like we
Play
think of
Assassin's
them,
Creed Valhalla.
yeah, like you think how barbaric they were, but like honestly,
That's just
like
English propaganda.
yeah, exactly. Like the women held a lot of power in a lot of the relationships, and like if a man cheated, the woman could basically like slice and dice.
Yeah.
And like take all of his money. Like she could have her own property too. Like it's not like, you know, colonization where hey, your husband died or he cheated on you, you're now broke and alone. Like
There's a manuscript of like someone in England that are like, it's not fair. Like our women keep falling for these Viking men because they shower once a week and their hair is neatly combed. And so basically, you're talking about like our women keep falling for them because they're big, strong people that smell nice and are clean, which is also the exact opposite of how they were portrayed in a lot of art in history. Ooh, no, Viking Canada, I love it.
I'd be so cool, and like depending on how they'd spread as well. Like even if they got like further south, which I don't think they would have. That doesn't seem very Viking-esque. To venture into like anything warmer than what you'd expect of Italy.
watching the show Vikings on the History Channel, and they do follow actual Vikings that were around. Like at one point they had land in like England for farming, and like they were trying to create like a farming community essentially. So I think they would go south, but not necessarily like down into Central America. Like they might have just stayed in like North America.
My guess is like Virginia is probably where they'd stop.
Happy Leif Erikson Day.
Happy Leif Erikson Day. The last one too would have to do with like the Cold War. Specifically, I'd like to do a what if of like specifically like the multiple wars in Afghanistan. If that was not influenced by the USSR and the US like getting involved, but also that the Cold War stuff implicates the Korean War and the Vietnam War and like every other conflict in between during that era. So
yeah,
I felt like that'd be easy.
Ooh, actually, a really big what if would be like, what if America never came out with the Monroe Doctrine, which was the document that was like, we're the only ones that can interact with, with this side of the hemisphere. This side of the hemisphere is for America. And so it's the whole reason actually why the Red Scare happened was because it started spreading to like Cuba and Latin America. And that's the whole reason that happened. It was because America was afraid of this other, that technically Russia, is like interacting with our hemisphere through socialism. And so, I don't know, pretty cool if that never happened, because then that means the US wouldn't have been such a powerhouse.
Exactly. Like it'd be a really cool concept, but that'd be like a big project too.
Louisiana Purchase didn't happen. Sorry.
Didn't. So then, do y'all have any other like smaller, like not like full on ones, but just things you wanted to mention, like might be worth a what if, but there's like not quite, like there's something off about it.
So
go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say my other one was supernatural themed. That I had thought about of what if Mary had never died, and so Sam and Dean both grew up with Mary and John, but the problem is John still becomes the abusive, drunk father, and Sam still has demon blood in him from Yellow-Eyed Demon, and so you still have to deal with that. But so essentially, the series would start like where Supernatural began and they learn their hunter lineage would be when the Yellow-Eyed Demon takes all of the children that he gave demon blood to try and find out who's going to lead his army and like the army of demons and everything to try and conquer the world. And so basically, like, my theory is Mary learns how awful John actually is, leaves him and she takes the boys with her, and basically has them grow up a normal childhood, maybe she meets another guy. Didn't really care about that part, but the idea is that essentially Dean gets to grow up and have like the football career or whatever jock career that he wanted, because like I can see him doing that. Him going to college for sport, Sam going to college, actually getting his lawyer degree or getting close to it, and then all of a sudden the Demon War happens and Mary's like, crash course on how to become a hunter, go. And then it's basically like the three of them, maybe something happens with Mary that they like go on the avenge Mary, whatever. But essentially, like, the rest of the series happens still, like, the events that happen, like the apocalypse and Michael.
The events still happen, but the people facing them seem different.
Yeah. And, like, they're more grown up and, like, they have a slightly different history, like, yeah. So.
Nice. Isaac, did you have any that you wanted to?
Yes. I guess I have two. What they're small. And they both have to do with Avengers Endgame. Which obviously loads of what ifs whenever you had time travel. Number one, which was the thought I had like when I first watched it in the theaters, was when they were trying to find a place to go with the most stones. I was like, why didn't they just go to right before Thanos destroyed the stones with the stones when he was alone by himself on a planet? I think that would have been a lot easier because then all the stones were there. Obviously, he would have had all the stones, and if he caught sight of them, he could have snapped again. But if they could have successfully done something with like the invisible tech from Wakanda and sent just an assassin, like they could have gotten all the stones in one go. My second what if is, what if when they did get the stones, by the end of Endgame, they defeated Thanos. What if they had used the stones to remake the stones of their universe one more time? And because, he turned them all to atoms. Like they're still technically their essences out there. But what if they had what if they had undone that and then they sent someone back, which obviously that is also risking someone's life. But it really kind of is like, how big is it? The bigger level of something causes you to like die from the radiation, or is there like smaller amount? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you just sparked a theory for like the Marvel universe for me. What if Bucky had gotten the serum from whatever the scientist's name was, but didn't die on the train, but Cap still went into the frozen water? Would Bucky age like Steve did when he came back in Endgame with the original shield? Or would he stay young looking like he did being the Winter Soldier?
Could Bucky also snap the gauntlet with his robot arm and not get tons of radiation?
But he wouldn't have the robot arm if he didn't fall off the
off the train. You got a point there. So I had a couple just like fandoms and like universes that I think like would work, but like I had a big snafu with. So first category is the reason these two fandoms don't work is because they already have a multiverse idea. Like they already like tackle these, and that's DC Comics. They really put an emphasis on like, because I think the What If series for Marvel works right now because it's MCU. But if you try to do it for all of Marvel Comics, you've already done things like that. Like there are already like storylines, you have like multiverse type characters, so it doesn't work quite as well. But I think the DC animated universe might work, or like that movie universe or the TV universe would work. And the other one was Pokemon. Because there's like a canon and a continuity, but also there's the concept that every game cartridge is its own multiverse. Or its own universe in each game cartridge.
Go over to Blue Universe.
Exactly. Like there's concepts. It's like, okay, what if, and they've already kind of done this in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but like, what if, the evil teams in each game succeed, and the hero isn't there to stop them. What if, certain Elite Four members or gym leaders don't play that same role? Like what if, and things like that.
What if Mewtwo succeeded in Mewtwo, the first movie?
Yeah, like there's a lot of weird canon in Pokemon. That's why like I don't think it would work. And there's so much like competing canon stuff that I don't think it would work. But I still think it'd be a cool concept as a TV show. And then the other one I think would be really cool to have a What If show, but we just don't have enough like canon storylines for it, is the Avatar universe. Right now we have Avatar, Korra, and the comics, and I think we would need at least one more show and one more like all-encompassing Avatar, like this is the history of the Avatar's comic series, to really like to justify it, because I feel like it's still pretty young in its development. And the last ones that I think like it's a cool concept, but just the vibe of the original property's off for a what if series, is like Disney Pixar type stuff. Like I was thinking like The Incredibles, you know, what if Mr. and Mrs. Incredible were villains? Like they were the bad guys. Or what if Mr. Incredible let, you know, Buddy Syndrome help him that day and like he became the sidekick? Like how does that change, you know, how the superhero stuff works? Or literally any other Disney or Pixar movie, like with the Disney princesses stuff, you know, what if they kind of take charge of their own destiny and don't need to be saved by a prince? Like what if they all turn out like Moana in that respect? Or what
Lilo
if
and Stitch. People forget about Lilo and Stitch because it's so old, but Lilo and Stitch does not have a man come and save them.
True, but also like Lilo and Stitch, like the protagonists are like children. I think that's why I didn't think of it. I don't think of Lilo as a princess, but I think of Moana as a princess.
But Lilo and Stitch does have, you know, a handsome man, aka Experiment 625 Ruben, who really knows how to make a sandwich.
I thought you were talking about Nani's boyfriend.
I was not. She thinks my hair is nice. She likes my hair.
She also thinks you have a nice butt, I think was another line.
Yeah, she says both, and then he only comments on the hair. Oh, man.
And then the last thing I thought of would be like Super Mario, like that universe.
Ooh.
If you did like a what if, but then also you just have Super Mario Maker, and I feel like that is, you can just make anything. So that's how it works. Alrighty, well, as always here on Raving Geeks, we like to end with some recommendations for you viewers, whether that be movies, video games, comics, or anything else in the Geekiverse. So does anyone have any recommendations for us today?
Yes. So I like read a book a long time ago as a kid, and I remember being like, what the heck was that book? And I had like spent years because I didn't remember anything about it. And then like I just got like a flashback, and I was like, that's something I can Google finally. And it's called Misterly Down the Misterly River. If that is in fact the exact thing, but Down the Misterly River, Misterly with an L in it, and it's written by Bill Willingham, otherwise known as William Willingham, fun name, who is also known for his work on the series Elementals and Fables, which are comics. He's also written some X-Men comics, and he's been a writer on Batman as well. Just different, you know, things in those. But basically, it's a really interesting storyline about. It's a book, but it's about a boy that is like a Boy Scout, and like he can remember all these adventures he's had in the past, but he doesn't know where he is. And suddenly he starts talking to like, there's like a talking badger that was like a warrior, and then he finds like a cat that used to be an old barn cat, but had like is like really mean and covered in scars. And then he finds a bear that was like a sheriff, and they're like all really odd things. Like they all come from totally different backstories that don't have interlocking things. And so it's basically about him trying to figure out like, why are they all here in this random forest? When like one's backstory had dragons, but the other one, they're like, dragons don't exist, stuff like that. And so it's really interesting how they try and figure that out. And I don't want to spoil the book, but it's a really quick read, like really quick, but also it's like, it talks about like the cat getting in a fight, and they're like, yeah, his throat was ripped out and like blood was everywhere, but then it healed. And I was like, this was a kid's book? I was like, it just talks about so much gore. Really good though. I recommend it.
Dang. And what was it called again?
Down the Misterly River with an L, Mr. Lee, but spelled like mystery. And no, really good. Nice. And it's got a surprise. It's like surprise ending. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, I always think of like I find things for the news and then like get into the topic, and then every single time that Brendan's like, okay, and we're gonna end with recommendations, I go, what am I recommending? But Isaac sparked book recommendation that I have. I just started it because my best friend finally gave me my Christmas/birthday presents. I still have to give them to her. Yay, COVID. But so she got me the book called Once Upon a Dream by Liz Braswell. So it's a twist on Sleeping Beauty. And on the cover, it says, what if the Sleeping Beauty never woke up? And I am only a few pages in, and like they've literally twisted everything. Like this is not a spoiler, but like the three fairies that we think are like the good fairies are not. And like Maleficent is actually the one that tried to like save Aurora. So like I'm hooked so far. My friend got like mad at a couple parts, and I've yet to get to those parts because I just started it when I got my second COVID vaccination. But I am absolutely in love with it so far. My second recommendation is, the other thing with that is that there are other books. So like there's Mirror Mirror, which is what if the evil queen poisoned the prince? So that's Snow White. You've got Part of Your World. So what if Ariel had never defeated Ursula? A Whole New World. What if Aladdin had never found the lamp? Unbirthday, which is what if Wonderland was in peril and Alice was very, very late? And like there's, I think there's other ones by like different authors, or like she publishes under different names. But like if you like twists on fairy tales, I highly recommend those books. But my other recommendation is on Netflix, and I can't remember if I've recommended it before or not, but Criminal Minds. If you really like crime shows and also like diving into why someone does what they do, Criminal Minds is really good for it because it follows the behavioral analysis unit of the FBI as they travel around the United States and solve various murders that are usually like serial killers or like more than one victim type thing. And it's really, really good. I am on season 3, and my favorite, one of my favorite, because actually I do have like, anyways, Rossi is back, Agent Rossi, and he's phenomenal, and I love him. And of course, if you love Shamar Moore in SWAT, then will love him in Criminal Minds. And also Matthew Gary Gubler.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I was
Dr.
waiting for you
Spencer
to bring
Reed.
him up. We love Spencer Reed.
And if you love quirky tech analysis people, Penelope Garcia is your girl. She is fantastic. And her relationship with Morgan, Shamar Moore's character, is beautiful. So yes, I highly recommend it. So like I said, I've been binging that lately.
Nice. All right. Well, for my recommendations, me and my roommates have been playing this game called Munchkins recently. It's kind of like baby D&D.
Yeah, I've seen the box at the store before.
Yeah, it's really fun. You kind of like you have like armor, and you can pull like class and race cards and things like that. And you're fighting monsters to try and like get through this dungeon and get to the end, but you can also sabotage everyone else that's fighting monsters to try and hold them back from getting to the end. Which has been really fun, and I really recommend the game. It's a pretty simple board game to learn, and it's not too complicated. The other thing is, if any of you watch or have Peacock, that streaming service from NBC, I highly recommend the show Brave New World. If you've read the book, it's like kind of similar. It's a little bit different, but it's like in the same universe, follows the story parallel of the book by Aldous Huxley, and that was very fun. I don't think it's getting renewed for a season 2, but it was good to watch. So, alrighty, well, that is all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us here on Raving Geeks. Make sure to leave a comment wherever you're listening from. We love to hear from you about your thoughts on today's episode or any future episodes you'd like us to do. Also, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter at Raving Geeks, and on our TikTok, also at Raving Geeks.
Ooh.
So, as always, I've been Brendan Valentine alongside
Hope Goodero.
And I'm Isaac Hunter.
Oh, hello, Gandalf. All right. Stay geeky and have a great weeky, everyone. So long.
Bye.
Yeah.